everybody, it's Dr. Ruan here. We're live, and I want to introduce you guys to somebody that's very, very special. For those of you who are watching this on replay, thank you for watching this replay. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Cheng Ruan. I'm a board-certified internal medicine physician, and I have a very special guest with me today, and we're talking about stroke and stroke survivorship, right?
Absolutely.
And this is my friend Craig 2.0. And we'll tell you how we got that name 2.0 a little later on. But thanks for joining us live. There's a few live viewers right now, actually. So let's talk about your story, Craig. So how did your story start? What happened?
Well, my story starts really pretty simple. I was looking for a doctor. I moved to another part of the town, and so I started looking for a new doctor. And so I got online and started looking and found Dr. Ruan's office. And so I called his office and asked to make an appointment. And they said sure, so they made an appointment for me at 2 o'clock on the 28th of May. And so it was a couple of days before that, and so I thought I was really pretty excited about it. And so on the 28th, May 28th, I was in my office, working in a hospital, sitting in my office doing some work. It was about 20 till 12, and it was really I was kind of feeling kind of weird. And I was typing on my keyboard, and nothing on my screen matched the letters I was typing on the keyboard. And so it really confused me. And so I decided to print the screen on my computer screen to see if it was the same thing that I was kind of seeing on the computer. So I went out to my outer office to the printer to get my actual paper, and as I was walking towards the printer, I just started moving over to the right, and just kept walking to the right, and next thing you knew, I ran into the wall next to the printer instead of at the printer, and I kind of laughed about that. I thought that was kind of funny. Got the paper, took it back to my office and looked at it, and it looked exactly what was on the screen, and nothing like what I had typed, and so I got really scared.
So what you wanted to type and not match was on the computer or on the paper, right?
Right. Exactly.
You start veering off to the right side, right?
Yeah, I had no control over my body. It just started veering off to the right-hand side. Like I said, it was kind of comical because I ran right into the wall, and there was the printer on the left-hand side. So
how did you feel at that point?
I felt very strange. I felt like that I just wasn't there mentally. I was only there in body, but not in my mind. And it scared me. I'd not been scared like this ever before. And so I got on the phone, and I immediately called my daughter, who lives within, who works within about 6 blocks of there. I called her. She answered the phone. By this time, it was about 5 till 12. I usually eat lunch at 12. I said, Katie, you need to come. There's something wrong with me. I don't know what it is, but please help me. And so she said, I'm coming out, Dad. She slammed down the phone. Then I called my boss at the hospital. I called, and he wasn't there, so I left him a voicemail. And I said, something's wrong. I need your help. Please come as soon as possible. And I hung up. And then I just got really afraid. And I'm not a person that usually is afraid or scared like that. But I stood up, and I looked at the front. I looked at my door, and it was like a barrier right there where I just felt like I couldn't walk across that door, that threshold, because I didn't know what would happen to me. I thought I would just go away or something. So it just absolutely debilitated me to a point where I couldn't exist.
Wow, it must have been real scary. Yeah.
It was totally scary. And for minutes, nobody was there. It was just me in my office and in the outer office. And then 2 or 3 people came in. My boss came in. And one of my coworkers came in, and they just looked at me, and they had this very strange look on their face. But they said, "What's going on?" And I just looked at them like, "I don't know what's going on. There's just something wrong, and I need your help." And so they helped me get out of the desk, and then helped me to the door. And then I put my hands on the door because I really didn't want to go through the door. I was afraid to go through the door. And they told me, "It's okay, don't worry, we're with you now." And so they took me up to the nurse's station in the hospital, and they checked my vital signs, and everything was high.
Everything, yeah. So everything was high, and that's really where I came in. Let me just move us closer because I think they're saying that I can barely hear. Okay. Let me put this closer. It can be a little intimate. It's okay. There we go. That's right there. Okay, so you know, at the hospital we found out a lot of different things for you, right?
Right.
And thank you, Nicole, for telling us he could barely hear. But anyway, so just to summarize it, he has some neurological symptoms. He was really scared. You know, his words that he typed weren't really matching the way he wanted to type on the computer. And then when he printed it out, it was confirmed that it didn't make any sense. And then anyway, so that prompted some medical attention, and then he ultimately went to the hospital and found a few things, right? So we confirmed that there was a stroke on the MRI scan, right?
Yes.
And then but I came in and I look at this guy and there's a lot of things about his blood work that tells me that he's at high risk for developing strokes in the first place, right? And I told him, like, hey, listen, man, we can battle through this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We can battle through this, and there's things that we can do to try to prevent you to have another one, but you gotta listen to what I say, right?
Absolutely.
How'd you feel at that point?
I was still kind of scared, and I was kind of really still doubting that I'd actually had a stroke, but because you came in and then a neurologist came in and you said the exact same words, you just dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
And that just really freaked me out and made me really think a little bit more about what had really happened to me. And then I started caring a lot more about what you were saying, because I wasn't even supposed to be able to speak. I wasn't supposed to be able to have cognitive powers. I wasn't supposed to walk. I mean, it was a brainstem stroke, and it was supposed to be extremely debilitating to me. And here I was sitting up in bed and talking to not only you, but talking to my daughters. And I think the most important thing I got from you that morning was you looking at me as you were leaving, and you said, Craig, I want to tell you something. I said, yes, doctor. And he goes, I have big plans for you. And so he said, I want you to know that. And I looked at you and I remember saying, I have big plans for you, Dr. Ron, too. so we were both on the same sheet of music, pointing towards getting me healthy as soon as possible.
Yeah. And I remember saying this, and one of the reasons I said this is that there's a lot of stuff in his blood work that I know is reversible. And I wanted to teach him about how to use food as medicine. And I wanted to teach him how to get better as quickly as possible. And just by meeting him, and he has a great personality, I knew that he was going to be successful. I knew that he's going to do what it is, what it takes. And he's got a lot of family support too,
yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. Two wonderful daughters that are one here where I live in Houston, and then one up in Dallas that came down to support as well. And their support was phenomenal, and they wouldn't let anybody come into my room and come and visit me during this time because they were so serious about what you were saying, Dr. Ron, about he needs to rest, he needs to have peace and quiet, he needs to just really get away from everything. And I mean, they took away my cell phone, they took away any communication with anybody from the hospital or other friends, and just absolutely just made me go cold turkey for that time. And in retrospect, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah,
but they also told me that you were a workaholic. And that was the reason why they took everything away.
Yeah.
Even though he had a stroke, he was still worried about stuff going on at work, and he's always worried about other things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? It's time to worry about yourself. Yeah. And I think your daughters agreed, right?
Yeah, they not only did it at the hospital, but when they got me back to my apartment later on, I was sitting on the couch. It was kind of funny because I looked over into the kitchen and they had my refrigerator open up, the refrigerator and the freezer open up, and they were just throwing stuff out of there left and right that were all the bad things that Craig was supposed to be not having anymore. And so they emptied my freezer and refrigerator, and then they went over to the pantry and did the same thing. So I had an empty apartment, basically because of all the stuff they had thrown out. And they took a lot of that to a food bank, but they took a lot of it home too. So they got to have the good stuff.
Well, I think you're lucky to have them, and I think when I was in the room and how adamant they were about getting their dad better and how passionate they were, it makes me passionate as well. I'm like, hey, if you're into it, if the patient's into it and the patient's family's into it, I am all in. I will give you all the tools that you absolutely need, and then more for you to be successful. And so that's one of the reasons why you're still sitting here today, which is
absolutely,
which is wonderful. So you did pretty good for yourself for a while.
I did.
Okay.
For a while, after you've had a stroke, there's so many new things that happen in your life and happen in your body that you have to really readapt to a lot of things. But one of the easy things was changing food habits. And that was the biggest thing for me because I just was eating carbs like they were crazy and eating foods that were not good for me, not healthy. And so immediately, Dr. Ron set me up with a nutritionist, and I went to her and we started talking about things. We made a game plan, and I started using that game plan. And over the course of the next 3.5 months, I lost 42 pounds.
Wow. And, 3.5 months, 42 pounds.
Yeah, and my daughters didn't even recognize me because I had lost so much weight. And I lost it the good way. I didn't lose it by not eating anything at all, but I started eating the healthy foods and counting carbs. And that was something new for me that I'd never done before. Most people count calories, but in my case, it was counting carbs.
Right.
And so once I started doing that, it was, I know it sounds crazy, but the pounds almost started melting off because of that, eating the right things and not eating all those carbohydrates. It was a big deal for me.
Right, absolutely. And a lot of the carbs that you intake actually cause quite a bit of inflammation once it gets to a certain level in your body, number one. And eating for carbs are very important because it decreases your insulin level. And as the higher your insulin level is, the more inflammation that your body gets. And actually, the number one risk factor for stroke and heart attacks in the country is insulin resistance. It has nothing to do with necessarily cholesterol or smoking, anything like that. I mean, those are major risk factors, don't get me wrong, but the number one risk factor is insulin resistance. So getting the carbohydrates down surely helps you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, and also learning more about blood sugar and what it does to your body. That was a really great education for me because people have strokes, they have it for different reasons, but mine was because of my blood sugar. It was too high. And when I talked to friends about that later on, they just freaked out because they thought, how could blood sugar do that to you? But as it was explained by you and Dr. Patel, it happens very easily and very quickly if you don't manage it correctly. And so I started learning about what I should and what I shouldn't eat, and also how I need to take better care of my body. And as a result, I felt so much better than I ever have. I hadn't felt that good in 15 years.
Yeah, blood sugars do quite a bit. And consuming a lot of high carb and putting yourself into the diabetes or pre-diabetes zone, you actually do quite a bit of damage to your blood vessels. Not really just your blood vessels, but to the rest of your body, because you develop a lot of toxins that really build up and really damage everything to your body. And most people don't really associate. I think the public media doesn't really focus on blood sugars a whole lot when it comes to strokes and heart attacks. They focus more on the cholesterol and the quit smoking. But the number one cause of cardiovascular disease is insulin resistance. It's caused by high carbohydrate lifestyle, and I think this thing that is something that needs to be shed, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you did well for yourself, okay. And what happened after that? Because you had a second stroke, right?
Yeah, actually, November 24th, the day before my birthday, I had been working in the office area and had left for a few minutes and came back in. And my colleagues that work with me had noticed a slur in my speech, and also that I was kind of walking erratic. And I didn't realize it, but they did. So I had gone to the bathroom and come back in, and the leadership of our hospital had come down to talk with me, and I kind of thought I was in trouble for something. But when I wasn't in trouble, they were very concerned about me. So we went into my office, and they brought our health nurse down, and she took some vital signs, and she says, Craig's in the middle of another stroke.
Yeah. So what happened after that?
Well, we went back to the same hospital because they did such a great job the first time. Went back to the same hospital, and It was a different stroke this time. Before it was a brainstem stroke. This was a ischemic.
Well, it's called it's basically in a different area of the brain that was away from the original stroke, and it has to do with something called microvascular circulation, where the very tiny blood vessels in the brain are actually affected. Okay, and you know, you've been doing real good for yourself at that time, right? You've been on this diet kick.
Yeah.
You've been feeling good. You start working out, and you're like, crap, I have another stroke. Right?
Yeah.
How did that feel when you had a second one?
Well, the first thing it felt was that I had done all of this work for nothing. And that's not the truth, but that's how it felt, because I had worked so hard. I'd obtained a lot of goals. I had reduced my carbohydrate intake like I was asked to. I felt great. That's why I was working out more. And I just felt like I was in a really good place in my life. And then this happened, and it was a real big setback for me, because it wasn't the same type of stroke, and it didn't cause the same symptoms as the last one did. This one caused me to have a lot more paralysis on the left side of my leg, where it just didn't move like it used to, and also I just had a lot of instability because of that. I couldn't walk very well, and in the process of going through this stroke, I also pulled a groin muscle, and stroke is a bad enough thing for you to have, but when you have a groin muscle pull, well, it's just the pain is just incredible, and so I had to work through both those things during this stroke, and it was a little bit longer convalescent for me. I didn't get to go back to work as quickly because I didn't feel comfortable. I had a little bit harder time speaking to people, talking to people, and speaking in public, and so I just really shied away from going back to work for about 2.5 months, and then finally Dr. Ruan released me to go back to work under special conditions, which really made it better for me because it didn't put me under so much pressure to be there all the time doing work as much as I was doing in the past.
Right. You know, he did well for himself in terms of diet and exercise and stuff like that. But there was you have a high stress level job.
I do.
And, you know, I mentioned a few days ago in my video that stress is the #1 killer in the country. And we cannot forget the stress that we have on a daily basis. It affects our sleep patterns, it affects our hormone levels, and you know, stress affects our sugar levels too, right? You did well for yourself, and even though you had a second stroke, one of the things to take away here is that if he didn't do well for himself, he may be really poorly debilitated from the second stroke. Right now, he's sitting next to me, and he's walking under his own power, and you know, he's doing well, right?
Yeah, I'm actually walking about 7 miles a day at the hospital, not continuous walking, but nonetheless walking, and that in and of itself I think is a pretty cool thing, because I don't know if I ever get back to that again after I had this last stroke, but I just was determined to make an effort to make myself better, and I have been able to do that, and I've gotten great friends that have been really supportive of me and give me encouragement, and also kidding me about it too, and that's part of the whole process. You have to be able to laugh and smile about things like this, because the alternative is I could have been in a pine box.
Right, absolutely. And you're doing something really awesome right now, and I put the link in the description here.
Yes.
So what are you doing now? What's your project now?
Well, I've never been in a situation where I asked people for money to help support an event that I was a part of. I've certainly done that on many different occasions and different issues before, but this time it's about stroke victims and the caregivers, and how much it requires incredible amounts of money for those people to exist and for those people to work with each other. Caregivers, I've gone to seminars where there's caregivers there, and their lives have been changed dramatically, where they can't do anything anymore because they're taking care of a stroke victim. And my heart goes out to them, because they truly are the people that are doing the biggest work, because they're making sure that loved one gets fed every day and gets bathed every day and gets to where they need to go for doctor's visits. I'm able to do all that myself, but in looking at those folks out there that are like that, they really need support. They really need help. And the National Stroke Association is having a walk, a 5K walk and it's going to be on September 10th. And so if you look at the information that Dr. Ruan has downloaded for you, you can get in there and you can help support that effort. And it's important that we do that. We just can't forget about those people out there that are stroke victims. They really, really, truly need our help, and they need our support. So I encourage you, if you have the wherewithal to do it, to take a few dollars and put it towards the program, and all of it goes towards helping those that are in need, that are stroke victims and caregivers across the United States.
Right, and you're going. Are you going to this?
Yeah, I'm actually participating in it, and
it's a 5K that you're going?
It's a 5K, yes.
Awesome. Yeah, great. Wonderful.
And so, and they're doing them actually all over the United States in different locations too. So it's an encouraging thing for stroke victims, stroke survivors, and their caregivers to be a part of this program. And so we're just encouraging you as people out there that have family members that may have gone through a stroke process or know of other families that have it. And you know what's going on and how important it is to have that kind of support. And you know what that's about, and so we're encouraging you all to be a part of it.
Right. Yeah, and from my side, from the physician side, I talk to family members and caregivers who take care of people with strokes all the time. Now, Craig, you got lucky because you're still walking on your 2 feet.
Right.
Right? And if you didn't make those health decisions before, you probably might not have, right? And so I'm glad you're sitting here next to me and talking about it. And I'm glad that we're doing something wonderful to support a really great cause of stroke victims, not just stroke victims, but more importantly, or just as importantly, the caregivers. Now, those people who provide a lot of cares for people who are debilitated go through a rough time in their lives too. They focus their attention on the person or the people who they're taking care of, and tends to sometimes neglect themselves too.
Yeah, well,
so
we've actually even heard some testimony in some of our stroke meetings that we've had where caregivers have gotten up and given testimony where they're just crying. They're just sitting there crying and telling us how their lives have changed forever. And they feel so guilty for not wanting to be there all the time, but they know they have to be there all the time. And so they really need support more so than the stroke victims in some cases, because they still have vibrant lives and they're very active. They do a lot of different things, but because they have a member in their family that's had a stroke, they're somewhat kind of debilitated because of that, because they're always involved with what's going on with the stroke person there. So, yeah, my heart goes out to them, and they have an incredible job that they do, and it's kind of a thankless job sometimes. So my heart goes out to them.
yeah, so I posted this link in here. You can donate anything to the cause, and the money does go to stroke victims and caregivers. Yes. Literally anything will help. But if you click on that link, you just make sure that you understand that what we're trying to do right now is to make this a topic that's very big, and people understand that not only are people affected who have the strokes, but the entire family and everybody that surrounds them, their friends, they're really affected by this in a very, very profound way. And so, and not many people, a lot of people overlook that, right?
They do. If it's not in front of you, I tell you, over 700,000 people in the United States every year have stroke.
Right.
And it can be absolutely devastating, from the grandchild that loves grandma or grandpa to the older adult that has to help take care of mom and dad now.
Okay, yeah, wonderful. Hey, let's talk about how we named you Craig 2.0. I forgot about that.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a fun story. When I first came into the hospital, I looked a mess and everything, and I started working the program and actually listening to Dr. Ruan and listening to my nutritionist. And so when I came back from my 3-month visit afterwards, I had lost over 42 pounds. My body was very strong. My face was very narrow. It was just a total different person from what I was before that. And so my daughters had kind of called me Craig 2.0, but Dr. Ruan decided that he wanted to make that part of my my identity, and I really like it because that shows that we've rebooted and we're making progress in our lives, just like they do with computers and programs. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, everybody deserves a 2.0. Okay, we're born with 1.0. We go through life being 1.0, but if we choose to become a 2.0, we can certainly become a 2.0 or even a 3.0 if we choose to, right?
Yes.
And so Craig 2.0 is really the new reinvented version of him. And now, I consider you 3.0 because right now you're talking to everybody else and helping them get along too, right? So
it's a pleasure
So
too.
1.0 was the old you, the 2.0 was you doing well for yourself, and 3.0 is us giving value to people who have gone through this.
Absolutely.
And who really could benefit from what you're talking about here, right?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, wonderful. But go listen. I need you guys to share this post right now. Share this live feed right now, because this is truly important. And like Craig 2.0/3.0 says, 700,000 people have a stroke every year, and there's somebody in you that that is probably going to go through this very soon or have gone through it. Share this in your feed so that they can learn and they can be inspired. And I hope you really enjoy this, okay? And also, please click on the link for donations to the event that Craig will be at for his 5K. So, and I hope you get a lot of pictures from your 5K so we can share that.
We're going to be great. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
No, wonderful. We got thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate your time. I see who is here. There's a bunch of people that were here. Nicole is always here because she loves me, and I love you too, Nicole. And Dodie, hey Dodie. Dodie is caregivers are in most cases overlooked. That's what she said, and that's absolutely true.
That is.
Rohan is here. Rohan is one of my favorite cardiologists. He's in New York City. Really respect the guy, and he has an amazing story himself. So check out his page. And and Stacy, hey, what's up, Stacy? Stacy joined as well too. So there's a lot of people who've been watching live, and a lot of people who've taken a lot of inspiration from you. So thank you for joining me.
Oh, I was a pleasure to do it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we'll look forward to the 5K event supporting stroke victims and stroke families.
September 10th.
September 10th.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Thanks
Appreciate
a
it.
lot, guys. Yes.
Bye.